Imagine swearing under oath that the FBI would never be politicized, and then facing a lawmaker who shows up with names, lawsuits, and receipts proving otherwise. That's exactly what just happened when Congresswoman Deborah Ross tore into Director Kash Patel, exposing claims of firings, bias, and broken promises. What she said next could shake public trust in the FBI to its core.
I'm going a little out of order here because I'm going to pursue some of the things that you were just talking to Mr. Fry about and remind you about your confirmation hearing. At your confirmation hearing in January, you said under oath, and I quote, "There will be no politicization at the FBI. There will be no retributive actions taken by the FBI should I be confirmed." And in your written response to the Senate questionnaire, you said, I quote, "Personnel decisions shall be based on performance and adherence to the law, and every FBI employee will be held to the absolute same standard, and no one will be terminated for case assignments." So I want to just go through a couple scenarios with you to get a sense of whether you think these are examples of politicization of the FBI or making decisions based on the performance and adherence to the law. So, first question. Would hiring FBI agents, analysts, and supervisors from only one political party being politicization of the FBI or making personnel decisions based on performance and adherence to the law?
We don't ask FBI people, applicants, where their political parties are.
Mr. Patel, do you ask FBI applicants who they voted for?
The FBI does not.
Are you aware that in the lawsuit that Mr. Driscoll filed against you and the FBI, he was asked who he voted for?
Since that lawsuit has been filed and it's ongoing litigation, I'm not able to comment.
Well, but it also means that you just said that what happened in his situation didn't happen. So we will go on to the next question. Let me ask you an even easier one. Does firing agents for working on the cases that they were assigned to and that the president didn't like, is that politicization of the FBI or making personnel decisions based on performance and adherence to the law?
The FBI doesn't terminate anyone based on case assignments alone.
Has the FBI ever been sued by somebody who felt that they were terminated based on case assignments?
In the entire history of the FBI, I'm sure they have.
No, since your tenure.
I'm sure there's ongoing litigation.
Yes. In fact, there is ongoing litigation. And in fact, people have been asked who they voted for. And in fact, you are running an FBI for the President of the United States rather than the people of the United States, because my questions were not hypotheticals. They are the things you have done during your tenure. And according to a lawsuit filed last week by long-term FBI agents, you fired former acting director Brian Driscoll. He had served with the Bureau for nearly 20 years, earned a Medal of Honor, Medal of Valor for bravery during the dangerous ISIS raid, and had a wealth of crisis response experience and led the FBI's critical incident response group. When the Trump administrations interviewed Mr. Driscoll for that role, they interrogated him about his political leanings and who he voted for in the last 5 elections. Questions Mr. Driscoll refused to answer because those types of questions impermissibly politicized the FBI. You also fired Steve Jensen, who served the FBI for nearly 2 decades and ran critical terrorism, counterintelligence, and organized crime operations, whom you once described as embodying what the American public demands of the FBI. But he was fired because he took part in investigating crimes committed on January 6th. And Trump's MAGA base lambasted you online for keeping him at the FBI. So he's no longer at the FBI. You also fired a decorated combat veteran with decades of experience in the Bureau, Special Agent Walter Jardia, because he worked on the investigation into the Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election and helped investigate Trump's ally, Peter Navarro. Director Patel, it is very clear that you have flunked your own test. You've put saving your job, which I actually believe you were being honest about during your confirmation hearings, over doing what's right for the FBI and the American people. That is not adherence to the law. Thank you, and I yield back.
Time of the gentleladies.
What we just witnessed here is Congresswoman Deborah Ross doing exactly what many Americans expect from oversight, not just asking questions, but coming in with the paperwork, the lawsuits, the names, and the history, the receipts. And she used them to directly challenge FBI Director Kash Patel over whether the Bureau under his leadership is serving the Constitution or serving the political interests of the White House. This exchange goes far beyond a heated back and forth. At its core, Ross is testing Patel's own words against his actions. During his confirmation hearing, Patel swore there would be no politicization, no retaliatory firings, and no favoritism. But here, Ross outlines specific terminations: decorated veterans of the Bureau, agents with decades of service, people who had earned medals of valor, even a man who led the FBI's critical incident response group. And her allegation is that they weren't fired for misconduct or poor performance, but because they worked on politically inconvenient cases, January 6th investigations, Russian interference probes, or anything that might touch Trump's orbit. Notice how Patel responds. He doesn't deny the lawsuits exist. He doesn't explain why these highly decorated officials were removed. Instead, he repeats the same line: "We don't fire based on case assignments." But if that were fully true, why are these very lawsuits alleging the opposite? Why are career FBI officials saying under oath that they were interrogated about who they voted for? That's the tension Ross is drilling into, the difference between what Patel insists is happening and what the public record now suggests may actually be happening. This is also a larger moment about public trust. The FBI is supposed to be above politics, a place where agents pursue criminals, terrorists, and foreign spies without worrying about party lines. But if agents start to believe that their job security depends on which cases they touch or which party they privately support, then the very foundation of an independent FBI crumbles. That's why this exchange is so explosive. It isn't about one or two firings. It's about whether the nation's top law enforcement agency is being bent into a political tool. And that's what makes Ross's closing lines so damning. You've put saving your job over doing what's right for the FBI and the American people. That's not just a personal critique. It's an accusation that the very guardrails meant to protect democracy are being eroded from the inside. Now here's the real takeaway. Oversight hearings like this are about forcing clarity in public view. Ross put names, dates, and lawsuits on the record, and Patel's evasive answers will also be on the record. That means these questions won't disappear. They'll fuel further investigations, further lawsuits, and more pressure on the Bureau to explain itself. So the bigger question isn't whether Patel survived this hearing. It's whether the FBI, under his leadership, can survive the perception that it's become just another partisan weapon. Because for many Americans, that perception alone may already be enough to damage its credibility for years to come. If you found this breakdown insightful, make sure you subscribe, because we're here to unpack the hidden stakes behind these fiery exchanges, so you don't just watch the drama, you understand what's really at risk.